Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 801. This is being recorded on December 4, 2024. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
Nothing may match the majesty of 800, but we're going to try. I'm Brett Van Spoonberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
By majesty, do you mean a dry erase marker on a whiteboard?
Look, that was a piece of paper.
That can be majestic.
I
think we should give that away at some point.
On it, or I don't know what. There was text that I could read when I changed the brightness and contrast values. So I just blew out all the whites to make it look like a whiteboard. I'm like, I don't know what he has on here. I'm not going to give away his secrets.
Oh, I might have had that on a desk mat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was something. There was some text on it. We eliminated that through the power of editing. And through the power of editing, we want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/PCPer. A hearty thanks to the following. We'll let Brett read so I don't butcher all the names as usual.
I think the first one is Chasp0 or Chaspo. I'm not really sure. He wrote us a very nice, warm thank you for our 800th episode. And it was great. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hearts out to you. And then I went through the list and grabbed a couple of longtime subscribers and patron members like D. Lawson was one of them, and Malafe AMC. I think I'm pronouncing that one right, or Malafe?
I'd stick with the first one.
Yeah, Malafe AMC and L Band. Which I think is a radio frequency.
That's actually pronounced pterodactyl.
Thank you.
Also with Chasp/Casp, maybe the underscore is pronounced. Maybe it's Casp_io.
Oh, I like it. That could be.
So we don't know.
Anyway, thanks to all, and especially for the nice note that Chasp_o sent us.
Josh, you prepared at this time to speak about your lunch escapades.
Yes, but before I do that, I just wanted to quickly say one of our longtime members, Kyle Helms, passed away this week. I'd actually been talking to him for quite a few years. I looked back in the Twitter DMs, and he'd contacted me kind of early on, and we would chat back and forth. And then he joined our Discord and became a well-appreciated and loved member. So we just wanted to, send on our thoughts and prayers to his family, and hoping that he is in a better place than he was. So we appreciate him being part of our family, and hope for the best.
Our condolences to his family. That was
Indeed.
horrible.
He's missed.
To hear about that.
So, but we had a burger after all the bad news that we realized that life goes on and Wednesdays happen. And today, I took this entire week off because I've been working like nonstop for a long time, and took the boys out to lunch. My two sons, who still live at home at 21 and 22. Let's not talk about that, though. Let's talk about the burger. It's a Cowboy Joe. We've had it before. And, actually, because I had the day off, I didn't take it away. I didn't get munched. And look, they gave me all the fries. So it comes with a chipotle cheese sauce, some jalapenos, green chilies, cheddar, big chunk of cheddar, and bacon. And so, the quality of the photography is not fantastic, but, you can really see that cheese glistening. You know what I'm saying?
It's way above average, Josh. This actually is
brightly
lit. It's sharp, and there's more than 4 fries in the photo.
Yeah,
there are more than 4 fries. No, there are 5 fries.
That flooring you brought over from Home Depot as a background.
It's 5 guys, Josh. It's pronounced 5 guys.
Yeah, no, that's the table. So.
Oh, are these hand cut fries?
No, I think that they're probably just frozen. They used to do hand cut, but the quality was really iffy at times. And
that was
so
that's just when your offspring worked there, though, right? They were. Oh wait, no, sorry. That wasn't when your son.
Well, there was also the potato cartel
Oh.
ruining everything.
Yeah.
They have a strong union, Jeremy. It's tough.
No, it's a.
Well, I mean, we do neighbor Idaho here in Wyoming, and so we don't want to do too much to make them angry.
No.
Yeah. So,
I bet you that's more popular than their Cotton Eye Joe.
Maybe. I don't know. That's every college stadium. They play the Cotton Eye Joe, and everybody gets up and dances. Yeah, so
but I'm thinking that burger is not as good.
No, but no, it was a pretty good burger overall. So my son had the butter burger, and it was super plain and not that great. I'd had the butter burger a couple months ago, and it didn't impress me then. It's even worse now. So maybe they need to do a little soul searching at Born in the Barn and kind of take their game back up there.
Let's move to the PC Perspective news desk. And there's all sorts of news and a lot of Intel-related news we have to talk about. And let's just get started with the big story in the tech world that rocked the tech. Josh, do you want to talk about Pat Gelsinger?
Sure. Kicking Pat was shown the door by the board. We don't have a whole lot of information other than, we wish Pat the best in his future endeavors. He announced his retirement. I mean, he is 65, and Intel does have some interesting rules about retirement. I mean, Pat came in and he wasn't, the most popular CEO, but there were a lot of people who liked him and liked what he was doing. I mean, he saw that there was a manufacturing deficit, and so when he did the 5 nodes in 5 years thing to try to get Intel up to snuff, and that costs a lot of money, and it's a very hard turnaround. And he did other things in terms of he canceled some projects, he re-upped some other ones, and they cut like 20% of the workforce over the past year. But I think in the end, the board is not filled with a lot of technical people. There's a couple there, but not that many. I mean, it's like some finance guys and some dude from Boeing, and it just there's no actual silicon engineers on that group, and you could probably tell them the timelines it takes to design a product and actually ship it, but when they're looking quarter to quarter and cash burn and the big adjustment this past quarter, which was in the billions, I think it just became kind of too much for them. They thought we need to have a change because we're not getting to where we want to be fast enough. And when you compare Intel to like NVIDIA, I mean, how they've grown in the past 5 years is, absolutely insane. And Intel has missed out on every single one of these boats. I mean, back in 1998, when they had the chance to really compete in the 3D graphics world with, the follow-up to the i740, and instead they shut down the standalone graphics unit, used to be the Starfighter unit from Lockheed, and, got those guys to start making integrated graphics for chipsets and later CPUs. And then they got that group so disparate and disjointed that, when they brought Radeon, he had to redo all kinds of stuff to get everybody on the same page because there were like 20 different integrated SKUs at any one time that they had to try to do drivers for. And it was a disaster. And then in 2008, the Larrabee, I think, was the right around time, and Pat was actually in charge of that. And it was a poorly defined product because if you kind of look at Intel and look at what they bought and what they divested themselves from, it seems like the overwhelming thought was, we need to put x86 everywhere. So you had the Atoms that were in cell phones. You had Larrabee, which was designed around, a huge number of very small x86 cores that had, a significant vector unit attached to it. And it was not a great product because dispatch is going to be, when they do API calls and dispatch to the graphics processor, you've now got to network these 50 CPUs effectively and do work, and it was just not great. And so it seems like they had their strong arm group and they divested themselves of that. It's really where did this come from? I mean, why did they think that x86 was going to be the end all be all when there were other companies out there that were making a wide variety of products? Maybe just because in the 90s we saw Spark and MIPS and DEC Alpha, all of those things just slowly crumble, and x86 was the primary architecture around. I don't know, but Larrabee was a disaster. It was a lot of money, and that was the last thing I think Pat was in charge of. And then he quit and went on to, I think, EMC? I can't remember exactly. And because they passed him over to be CEO, and he's like, screw this, guys, I'm out of here. And and they brought him back. He made a lot of hard changes. Had a pretty aggressive timeline. Areas that as much as some people would think that it's a little bit of a failure. I mean, their latest generation of CPUs going to chiplets is something they probably should have done ages ago. I mean, AMD has been doing that with, since the Zen 2 series, the Ryzen 3000. I mean, they were 2 chiplets and a IO on regular organic substrate, not even a fancy dancy interposer, but they were able to get good performance out of that implementation. And Intel was way behind. I mean, they did a whole bunch of interesting things with like EMIB, and other interconnects, and this was finally their first real product that featured all of these technologies kind of together. And it's it works. It seemingly is not great, but it is an advancement from what they were doing, and it's kind of the future. I think chiplets like this are it's going to help with yields. It's going to help with integration. Eventually, it's going to help speed things up. Utilize different process nodes where it is the most adequate. All of these things, and I mean it's
latency too, where that's needed. So that's another point.
Yeah, more latency, please. But that's one of the things that they eventually have to work around. They have a slower ring bus because of it's not all on one chip. So. I think he essentially was pushed out. Didn't get going far enough as they were comfortable, burning through money, and they thought that they needed a change, and so Pat is out the door.
And Qualcomm doesn't want them anyway, so
yeah.
They lost interest in the takeover before Pat's ouster was announced. Though.
Yeah. One had nothing to do with it.
Now Intel is worth $105 billion, and NVIDIA is at 3-something trillion. But that's all just stock numbers, so,
Smoke and mirrors, at least for NVIDIA.
And they can't spin off the foundry. I mean, there are restrictions to what Pat was even able to do to make up the deficit. They had this huge cost-cutting plan in place. They were obviously acting on it, but the CHIPS Act.
Now, how much do you want to bet they're going to continue to do the exact same thing Pat had them on a course to do, though?
Yeah, it takes a long time. A lot of the decisions that we were just hearing about have probably been in place for the last 5+ years.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still talk about them divesting themselves, spinning off the fab. But, if you look back at AMD when they did that, they essentially had it financed by Mubadala, that they're the Abu Dhabi kind of national finance group, and they ended up losing something like $22 billion on that deal. It is expensive to do. These are massive, high capital infrastructure pieces that can't exist in a vacuum, can't exist on their own without a lot of external help before they get to a point where they can be like TSMC and have a wide variety of customers and keep their lines, 100% filled all the time. It's I don't know how that's going to work. It's going to be a challenge to be able to find funding like that, especially with the past history of a much smaller fab group. I mean, that turned into Global Foundry, still burning through some $22 billion from an investor. So I don't know. Intel's got a lot more fabs, a lot more clean space. I don't know where it's going to go.
They've got to hold on to just over 50% of it, I guess. That's kind of the way that the agreement's written. And they have to invest $35 billion in the next 4 years in over 12 fabs.
Yeah, that was the news as of last week, I guess, is that their CHIPS Act
nuclear
restricts
powered.
Their sale.
So they've got to build and equip and operate 12 fabs and packaging facilities in Arizona, New Mexico, Ohio, and Oregon.
Speaking of smooth operations, it is time for mandatory ARC coverage. Yes, we can jump on the ARC bandwagon again. Not because we have a friend on the inside who works there. Ryan has moved on. And it's not a bit. This is legitimate. This is ARC B series, they're calling it. They're not calling it Battlemage, at least not in this official press release and coverage from Intel. It's the ARC B580 and B570 modern gaming features with best-in-class value for performance. So don't expect a lot of performance, just expect competitive pricing. These top out at what, $249.99 for the B580?
That's correct.
Before we go too much farther than this, think about how smart Intel is with the naming structure of this. You had the A, and you use the same three numbers on different, categories of parts. Now we go to B. So they've got 26 iterations that they can go through instead of doing hey, we got the 9000 series, and 10 years later, hey, we've got the 9000 series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smart.
So clever.
It is smart.
Cunning.
Very smart. Magnavox.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Monty Python earlier. Those were the great John Cleese commercials for Magnavox. They're timeless.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the great compact commercials back in the day. For the compact portable. All right. So expect... actually, we have... Are there already products available? They announced availability, right? Not just the announcement.
There were a handful that you could pre-order. And they're going to be released on the 13th. I think the NDA expires on the 12th. You're going to be able to buy them on the 13th. They come from a variety of partners. They've got 5 partners this time. Sparkle used Intel to get into the U.S. market. ASRock is already here.
Here we go. There's an ASRock right there.
No, Asus.
That's A.
That's an A.
That's A.
I saw the 580. See, it can be confusing, Josh, if you're of low intelligence like me. Oh, there's the 580, but I'm not looking at the B or the A in that case.
Yeah, I don't know if they're...
There's a B.
Yeah, B580.
Ooh, there it is.
Now, this is an overclocked model.
Oh, it's a Titan OC.
$20 premium, so it's $269.99.
I guess that their overclocking is fair. They can be fairly significant. It's a 190 watt TDP part.
Okay,
but Tap was saying in his presentation that the power delivery can go up to 25% higher. So they can increase the power limit in their overclocking stuff, and because I think the boost is almost 2.8 gigahertz. So you're looking at 3.1 with really good cooling, and their partners can push that even further. And they're not really for the Intel LE, they have it distinctly in there that overclocking will not void your warranty, which is a nice change. We don't know if the partners are going to do that same thing, but It's some flexibility there, which is kind of nice.
I mean, these are priced probably competitively.
They're priced to sell.
Their performance relative to what AMD and to a lesser degree and NVIDIA has at this segment
1.5 to 2 times the cost.
So
yeah,
NVIDIA at this level is what, 8 gigs of memory, and this has 12, so that's something right there.
Yeah, it's the RTX 4060. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you can't really fully trust manufacturers' numbers before reviews are out.
No.
But if what they're showing is even partially true, you're looking at least 4060 performance, and in most cases, this outperformed the 4060 at $50 less. And, when you're talking a $250 card, $50 is a huge amount to people. Mm-hmm. This could be very interesting, especially if they come out with maybe some B770s and B780s. But yeah, I think this could be a real win for them, provided, the 5060 doesn't come in at $250 in January or February, whenever it releases.
NVIDIA has no reason to lower prices at this point.
No.
They'll just offer more. They'll say it's, we'll be on DLSS 4 by then, and here we can quadruple your frame rates with AI and all the other stuff. So,
yeah. And, it's a lot of good and positive things are coming out of this, and hopefully they sell just an absolute ton of them, and get that 1% market share.
Exactly. I was just thinking they could get on the board. John,
they can get down there, and it's got 12 gigs of memory. It's got a little bit less than half a terabyte per second of bandwidth. It's 460 some odd gigabytes per second, 456 gigabytes per second. Mm-hmm. RT performance should be improved. The one thing that they didn't talk about, I mean, they talked about some, but something that is a nice selling point is the whole AI sandbox, AI playground that they're offering with this. And you can get AI playground already, I think. They're offering up on their GitHub. And it's essentially, I mean, if you've ever tried to do any large language models or generative AI on your PC at home, it's a pain in the ass to get everything to work. Maybe install Perl and Python and do all kinds of crap to, once you do it, sure, it works fine. But this is, you install their AI playground program and you push a button and it does all the work for you. And suddenly you've got a local AI program running on your GPU. And I think that's a really nice selling point, especially people who are getting interested in AI and, maybe students who are looking to get into the IT world and programming and getting into AI models, that this is going to be an inexpensive and easy way to dip your toes into that. And I mean, as we know, seeding out stuff to university students who will eventually graduate and get jobs in the industry, they stay what they're comfortable with. NVIDIA did this. Intel is doing the same thing and trying to make a go of it. If you look at their performance, they don't beat the 4060 all the time. They essentially beat the 7600, RX 7600 from AMD pretty much all the time. But they show that they fall on a couple of different things. So that kind of gives you a little hope that they're being pretty honest about the results, and I think that they are. We may see corner cases where it absolutely falls off a ledge, but the other thing that really is kind of exciting is what they've done kind of with the front end. And the A series was a SIMD8 based, was it SIMD8 or yeah, I think it was SIMD8 wide kind of vector unit. And so it made it harder for DirectX API calls and Vulkan stuff to get into a data format that Intel did. And that was one of the biggest reasons why, one, initial performance and drivers were not great, and 2 compatibility was not fantastic. Just hardware wise, it was a bigger push. It was a bigger load to get good performance out, because it had to do a bunch of stuff, through the drivers on the front end. And by them doubling that to SIMD16, it's a little bit more compatible data format. I know I'm explaining this terribly, but
bigger number better, I think is what Josh is saying.
Bigger number better. No. I mean, it's just it's going to be easier to develop drivers for. It's going to be an easier fit for the modern APIs and even the older APIs, which Intel has had problems with. DX9, DX11, anyone? 10? Yeah. So they should come out of the door with a lot better compatibility and better speed. And it's going to be, and as you can see, it's either matches or is faster than the current A750 pretty much across the board.
Oh, faster, certainly. And from, a by 8, that's not super exciting when we get new GPUs and then you find out, it's just a by 8 interface, because
it makes a huge difference.
It makes no difference whatsoever.
It makes no difference whatsoever.
4, it just, I don't know,
maybe
perception. If it was a by 4, that would be terrible. Just, it feels like you've already lost if you're buying a by 4.
But no, the PCI lanes are so huge now that the graphics card is nothing. Now, if you've got a NVMe RAID, you want by 16. That will make a difference.
ASRock PPM driver claims plus 13% Arrow Lake gaming performance might not be the fix we're waiting for. Now, we were promised a fix by Intel. Intel promised a fix for their somewhat anemic performance from their latest platform. And I'm sure what we're going to end up with, not to be a cynic, I know that might be a perception. Sometimes there's some complaining and some cynicism on this podcast, but I don't want to do that. What I want to say is that back on the 11th gen launch, we had lower than expected performance from Intel. So they worked on it and they sent out a BIOS update, and reviewers like me got to retest everything and discovered that Intel had pumped up the voltage and pumped up the clocks and significantly increased the power consumption, but got the performance numbers that they wanted. So what can you do when you've already finished the product and shipped it out? You can tweak it and massage it. And, the firmware fixes are probably just going to be a loss of almost all of the power savings that was such a big part of the marketing for the new desktop processors. But I'm just being negative. It's possible that they can somehow magically greatly improve the performance without increasing voltage in clocks. Somehow, maybe.
I don't think that's what they actually did here. I think they do talk about increasing the voltage or the clocks, or a little bit of both. Well, they talk about power.
Well, you increase the voltage to support the higher clocks, and in the end, you end up drawing more power. It's magical almost how all those things
just come together in a
they just do.
Weird,
it's amazing,
symbiotic way. So this allows more power budget to be allocated using wishy-washy words. Yeah. But this just seemed akin to that turbo boost from for AMD Ryzen that we talked about a little while ago. It's like Intel and ASRock and whoever is working on this PPM drivers like, wait, we can do this. We can do this too. Let's do it. It's about gaming performance. That's what they're targeting.
That was what the disappointment was all about. Not the productivity stuff where they have the big power savings, because it's based on a mobile architecture. Which also, by the way, interestingly enough, the 11th gen was also a mobile first architecture, scaled up to desktop. Didn't offer the performance they wanted because it was built for efficiency. They had to greatly increase power consumption to make it competitive at desktop because of Ryzen. Our next story comes from videocards.com, and finally, we are actually going to stop talking about Intel. AMD Radeon RX 8800 XT. Now, the rumor is that it's going to rival RTX 4080 performance while using less power, and mass production starts this month.
Yeah,
this is a rumor,
that's the rumor. Available very early 2025, it looks like. Well, rumor-wise.
You think they'll announce this at CES?
Gosh, I think.
Possible.
Just a chance.
Yeah, as you well know, the 7000 series had underwhelming RT performance because they didn't actually develop and implement a RT type engine. In that they just used one of the, a portion of God, what do they call it? CDM? Again, more things that I can't remember.
They software.
No. Well, anyway, part of the RDNA 3. They essentially used a software hack that a portion of each of those. Gosh darn it! It was almost on the tip of my tongue.
I thought they were using a lot of aggressive culling, so they weren't actually tracing as many rays.
That's one of the things that was a software. Yeah. But they used a small portion that was kind of dedicated to RT stuff in each one of their kind of compute units, and so. Now they have actual, ray tracing stuff. And a lot of it was done because these were developed, the architecture was developed years and years and years ago. And they were looking at, how much die size that they were going to, spend on whatever feature. And they decided that maybe RT was not ready for prime time. And it kind of takes you back to the days where, tessellation was not considered a big deal until, NVIDIA made it a big deal and absolutely wiped the floor. And Crysis 2 came out and tessellated flat surfaces and, things like that absolutely crushed AMD performance. But it's going to be interesting to see what else that they put in. We're going to get a bunch of matrix C units in there for matrix multiplication, which helps in AI, language models, machine learning, all that stuff. As a next generation product, I think that they're probably going to be very competitive with, a 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super. There's some that claim that it'll be 4080 performance, which if they get it to the $500, $600 level is a pretty good idea because the 4080 is still around $1,000 for some unknown reason. Well, because NVIDIA can, and they do. So,
but I'll know because I was sent a special edition pre-order for testing.
Josh, didn't you just talk about every old naming sequence is new again?
Every old name has come back.
What is this? Battlestar Galactica? What is old is new again?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember.
I was hoping someone had an 8800.
Well, plebeians can content themselves with 8800 GTSs. The discerning purchases the 8800 GTX.
Oh.
Okay. You're making me go get mine.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, here we go.
He's got the middle of the road one, I believe. So we can complete the set.
Now, this one, thankfully, was actually replaced under warranty by EVGA, I believe, because the serial numbers don't match and it's a remanufactured looking heatsink.
XFX 8800 GTX.
Yeah,
I went
nice.
EG Force.
I have an XFX, but it's only a 250.
That was a nice card. It would that generation of card lasted forever.
I'm sure if I plug this thing in, it'd still be going.
I think I have the Macintosh version of this card. Was there a Mac version of this?
Yeah, I think so. This is the actual NVIDIA reference card, but EVGA put a sticker on the fan. So it's an EVGA product now. This is what the reference cards look like that were sent out to reviewers, I believe. Moving back to the news. Here's a story from the Register. And another reason not to use 24H2. Like a fool, I went around with a thumb drive upgrading every one of my test systems to Windows 11 24H2 because I didn't want any kind of scheduling issues or other nonsense with these new Ryzen processors. And ever since then, I have been reading about more and more compatibility and other problems. And the latest is it doesn't like things like printers and scanners. In fax machines, and the kind of stuff that some people actually use in an office environment. So
I mean, this makes sense. No, that's a lie. This doesn't make any sense.
So,
but unfortunately, seems typical.
Windows 11 won't update to 24H2 if you have a eSCL device. Is that protocol just not supported?
Who knows what they decided to do?
Okay. First off, why are you using a scanner in this day and age?
Oh, because
second off, why are you using a fax machine in this day and age? Well, just the answer is you're probably a government agency and are legally required to do that. So it's yet another reason for them not to upgrade from XP. I wish I was lying.
or you're a law firm. I mean, people still do stuff with faxes. Real estate agents.
Yes.
Attorneys' offices.
Hey, a lot of companies are still required to fax documents and not allowed to email them.
NCAA recruiting, when you accept an offer from a university, you still have to use fax legally
with the university letterhead and everything.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
So you need to have.
How about ISA fax modems? Do you think Windows 11 will support ISA fax modems?
I'm gonna go get my Super 2400 baud external.
What about Twain drivers? You think I can use my Windows 98 era?
Nobody cares about
scanner?
That's technology without an interesting name.
Twain.
That's what it stands for. Technology without an interesting name. That is exactly what Twain is.
Samuel Clemens. Okay.
Nope, Twain. That's what Twain means.
Next we'll explain pots and pans.
Speaking of Microsoft and Windows 11, it is non-negotiable. Microsoft has said it. They've declared it. You will have TPM 2.0 if you want Windows 11, period. Now, this has not hurt their adoption rate at all. I mean, there's steadfast requirements to have new hardware on systems that would otherwise run the new operating system just fine for years to come. It has harmed them. It's harmed their adoption. This is a Vista level of adoption, isn't it? Or is it not that bad? I feel like there's a lot of people hanging on to Windows 10.
Seems a bit draconian. I do want to point out that personal experience, just a few days ago, I did install Windows 11 on an unsupported motherboard. I believe it was a Z390M with an 8600K. Runs fine. No TPM chip within a parsec of that motherboard. And it runs just fine. I did the regedit hack during the install. That was my preferred mode. Worked great. Bypassed not only that, but I bypassed secure boot as well. No ill effects. Seems to run just fine.
You can do this
all that to get that ISA fax card to run.
You know what? I wasn't going to go there, but it was for my scanner.
If you use Rufus to create your Windows 11 install USB stick instead of the Microsoft utility, then you can just have it. Just check all the boxes. No TPM requirement, no secure boot.
I mean, that was two more clicks. That was two more clicks. I mean, I had the 11 install USB already. I'm like, I'll just figure it.
You say that, but with 24H2, you actually need to twiddle the Rufus a little bit. Oh. It doesn't work like it used to previous to this update.
Next news story, MSI has an offset kit. You know the whole Intel Core Ultra thing, the one and done socket? Well, there's a little bit of a hotspot issue with the way that these tiles all kind of work themselves out. So if you're looking at the picture, if you're watching the video version of this, the story comes via FPS review. You have to use an offset cooler. That's just great. And if you do, then you'll have better thermals, which will be especially important when Intel increases the voltage and power draw to improve the performance of these products with an upcoming firmware update.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we did. So, get excited for offset cooler mounts because of hotspots. And you can read more about that story at the FPS review.
Think about the almost religiousness there is over like how thermal paste is applied or how much or where or what's your mounting pressure. Imagine throwing now a factor of, well, where's your thermal hotspot? I think this is a whole thing that's going to make people's heads come apart with with
it's already happening with the with AM5 CPUs. The hotspot on those is, if you're looking at the motherboard, is toward the bottom of the CPU IHS. And so Noctua and Thermal Grizzly and several others make offset kits for coolers that shift the cooler down slightly. And this is happening on the new Core Ultra Series 2. You're seeing the new NDH15 model has a specific Intel Core version that shifts upwards slightly and just slightly to one side. Thermal Grizzly's doing the same on some of their direct die stuff or IHS stuff. So it's becoming common in the new generation of processors where the hotspot is not going to be directly in the center anymore, and we're going to see offset brackets. And
they're a good value. I mean, they're not really charging you, so that's really nice.
You know what? Walmart won't charge you any more for a Vizio TV than ever before because they've gone vertical with the integration of Vizio TVs in their stores. Obviously, a lot of Vizio TVs sold at Walmart stores. Why not just buy them? And Walmart did. Walmart has bought Vizio for $2.3 billion, along with its SmartCast OS.
This was only a play so that Walmart can market and advertise through their Vizio displays. It's just a flat pane of glass that maybe there's content on there, but more importantly, ads. Yeah, ads. Remember, if the price is too cheap, the product is you.
That's true. Nothing is free, unfortunately.
Nope.
Dan Staffel.
It's not specifically related to that story, but I was at home at Thanksgiving and my parents had a new Samsung television that they'd gotten from Walmart. And my father was saying that he just wanted to turn it on and have it go to their dish and not have to go through the interface. And so I went, and my brother and I went and started looking at it, and there was no way to just bypass it to the HDMI input. It opened when you turned it on in the smart TV interface, and you had to go in there to select the HDMI input for the dish. So there was no way.
That seems like a large barrier. I don't know if
Which
I can do that.
brand was this?
It was a Samsung.
Yeah. Samsung's getting bad. LG is not bad yet.
I could not believe that. And my dad's 88, and he's like, I can't even see what it says on these little windows, let alone find what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So,
at some point, if you gave people $5,000 and showed them where they could buy a professional monitor display, then I think that for some people that might actually be worth it.
Isn't that interesting that we will eventually have to start paying for fewer features?
Yes.
Paying more for fewer features.
Because everything is subsidized.
Just to own it, just to physically own it and not rent something.
Vizio has become the net zero of TVs. It's free internet. But then you have to look at all these ads all around the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pause here for a word from this week's podcast sponsor.
It's another glorious day in corporate IT. Company-owned devices humming along, IT-approved apps for everyone, and all the people are only using managed employee identities. Well, the reality is a little different. The situation is that regular people like to get from point A to point B using the straightest possible paths. You think they always access your corporate data on their company-owned devices? What identities are they using? Are the apps they're operating even approved by IT? These straight paths, these shortcuts, are your people getting things done? They can tend towards unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and even non-employee identities. Many security problems take place on these shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. Every app becomes visible. Devices are known and healthy. Most importantly, access credentials are strong and protected. 1Password Extended Access Management goes beyond what IAM and MDM do by bringing security to the way we work today. It's generally available to companies with Acta, MS Entra, and even in beta for Google Workspace customers. Get secure on every app and every sign-in on every device. Get extended access management from 1Password. Check it out now and learn about it at onepassword.com/PCPerspective. That's onepassword.com/PCPerspective.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
Our first story comes via the register. Hello, Bootkitty. Linux gets its own UEFI bootkit.
Aw.
Isn't that just wonderful?
This is not the right kind of crossover.
No, not in any way, shape, or form. Because bootkits are the worst. They infect your UEFI, and no matter what you do, hell, throw the SSD out and put a new one in. Sorry, yeah, you're still infected because it's loading in a part where not a single system is going to be scanning for a virus. This one is mostly via the logo fail, which is, yeah. And it's unfortunately a proof of concept for a UEFI bootkit on certain Ubuntu versions. The good news is, at this point, for now, or at least as far as I know, it's not able to get through Secure Boot. Not that you have to worry, Brett, because you're not using that, so it'll still get through.
It's all right. It's on Windows 11. There's so many other ways to compromise that environment.
Yeah. So it's just really nasty to think that, yes, even Linux is going to be getting bootkits. There was a follow-up, I believe, earlier today that I didn't have time to look at, where it sounds like it may have spread beyond just a few Ubuntu versions to something a little more general purpose. It's not good news for anyone. It's just, making the world even that much worse.
At least Linux resists. Linux resists this. It hasn't fallen over yet, but it looks like it might in the future. And they're trying, obviously. You don't have a successful operating system if nobody's targeting it with malware, right? I guess that's the
exactly. This is a good sign
measure
for Linux adoption. Is that maybe if it gets mainstream attention from nefarious actors, then maybe finally it will be the year on the desktop.
2025.
Yes. Malware's coming to Linux. Linux is successful.
Resolution. It's
coming soon to a Linux system near you.
Forget 24H2. Get one of these specific Ubuntu distributions that have been, hacked, and away you go. Next, this might surprise you, because IoT, I don't know how to make that acronym stand for the most secure devices, but that's what it has always stood for. They safeguard your data's integrity, and they never use these devices to spy on you.
And they
never build these with any backdoors, no malicious intent. Their security standards,
no hard-coded passwords.
Your dryer is not sending 6 gigabytes of data upstream every day.
Will never do that. And then you haven't used the dryer for a week yet. What is it doing?
Yeah, what is happening down there in that dryer?
the refrigerator.
Also, they don't publish EOL information. So, 89%, not all, just 89%.
Yeah.
So that
honestly, that was probably pretty broad, saying that out of 184 device manufacturers they looked at, 163 didn't provide an EOL date for software updates to their devices. They might actually be saying, hey, at least a couple of them gave one EOL for one device that they published like 2 years after it was EOL. So it's probably worse than this is even saying. So it's not surprising. It's incredibly frustrating for anyone who's, hooking up a random sensor, a smart light bulb, any of the other products that we, jokingly mentioned earlier, which you should not trust, especially that smart toaster. It's the enemy. But there is, at least in the US, possibly a resolution to this. There's something called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, which requires written warranties for products that cost $15 or more. Now, this is specifically for products and not services, so there's a little bit of weasel room here for the lawyers. I mean, that's how they suck the blood out of humanity, or make money. And you could technically argue that a software update is more of a service than a product, but at the same time, by not ever saying that, oh yeah, we're totally going to just give up on updating this thing at some point and we're not going to tell you. I would love to see some of these manufacturers be held up accountable, that, some class action suits could be starting to go. It's the law. So, much like sausages, you might love it, but don't watch it being made. The hell, but maybe there is just this little tiny non-IoT light in the IoT market where we can sort of hold these people responsible and say, hey, even if you aren't going to update your software after X date, at least tell us what that date is when we buy it. Because we don't even get that much at this point.
I think that would open them up to more criticism around e-waste, because the expectation is, and this is what they advocate, is to say, after a certain age, whatever this perfectly fine working device you happen to have, be that a light switch, light bulb, toaster, dryer, vacuum cleaner, whatever is spying on you, just throw it away and get the new one. That'll have the latest security posture, built into it, rather than trying to patch that old thing. You probably want a new one anyway.
Or at least
I'm going to go and get my D-Link router from 10 years ago and plug it in. Be right back.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. And that was
you'll be offline. You'll be offline in 30 minutes.
Next
to QNAP.
Yeah, QNAP. We not D-Link this week, but QNAP and Veritas dump 30 plus vulnerabilities over the weekend. Just what you want to find out when you start a new week, says the Register. 24 vulnerabilities across various products. So how high are these vulnerabilities? No 10s, right?
Oh, they're nines
and extremes and severe remote code execution, file rewriting, the authentication so that they can use the applications that are on your QNAP device, which includes things like photo, some AI features, the router that they have,
features,
streaming, media streaming stuff. So a lot of personal information, potentially hanging out there to dry. And this stuff has been out there a while. I think this has been possible to be compromised for some time, like maybe over a year.
Oh.
But the good news is that QNAP makes the patching experience very, very transparent, easy, never any drawbacks whatsoever at all.
You sound like you're being sarcastic again.
Well, then what's the next story?
Well, in a related story, QNAP NAS users are locked out after a firmware update snafu.
Oh, whoops.
Right.
So just these two things in conjunction, updating the QNAP box or the firmware. Now, a lot of these, the compromises were in the software side, their software stack, the OpenSSH service, their routing service, their photo service, their authentication services. But by the same token, these updates, you also probably want to say, oh, I should update the firmware. That's going to do some basic, BIOS type updates and things. You want to do that, then it bricks your device. I think I mentioned in the write-up that I did for the show was you should probably just set these boxes on fire. I think that's probably going to be quicker and less painful for people ultimately. Just burn them.
But they're data.
They were. Let's don't worry. They're backed up on the cloud multiple points at this.
Oh, of course they are. They have an offsite. They have like an 8 terabyte drive in a bank vault, and they've got it all.
Sebastian, which device do you have? Do you have a QNAP, or which one are you rocking there still?
It's a Synology.
Oh, Synology.
I'm a civilized man.
Okay.
Brett.
Yep. You're right.
And also they sent one for a review that I never had to send back. But that is neither here nor there. Here's another insecurity story. This one's from Bleeping Computer. New Windows Server 2012 0 Day gets free unofficial patches.
So non-Microsoft, actually. This is the old mark of the web. Yeah, unofficial. This is the old mark of the web problem, but so Microsoft hasn't patched this one, and this problem has been around for years, unfortunately. And they knew about this. I mean, the mark of the web patch has been around for quite some time, but they never patched Windows Server. The older Windows Server 2012 and R2 never patched them. So this was a service that I wasn't even aware existed. This Zero Patch or O Patch. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced, but yeah, you can get an agent from them if you're feeling particularly jaunty and want to trust this company to help patch these sorts of things, or you can just sit with the vulnerability. I guess it's a difficult choice because Microsoft has not patched this Windows flaw, and it is exploitable. And there are others that have come up that they've been able to patch more quickly than Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm still
a little wary.
Just a wee bit, yeah.
So it's backed by Arcos, however you feel about Arcos security. But hey, there's any other security engine or security bits of software that are constantly compromised. So, who's to say? It is an option. I didn't know about this, so I just wanted to share.
All right, that concludes in Security Corner. We're going to move on to Gaming Quick Hits, and this is an important and developing story about Warcraft and Warcraft 2, which I had just read are no longer on GOG because of the remasters, which we talked about, I think, our last episode.
We did.
But thankfully you were wrong, for they are until the 13th.
Oh, until the 13th.
And then they're yanked.
So I better download my final backup copies because I bought this on GOG.
Well, that's the good news. Oh. Because of their GOG preservation program, they're saying that if you own it or purchase it, it's a bundle on sale right now.
Yeah.
On the 13th or before Blizzard forces them to pull it, they will continue to support it. They will still offer offline installers.
Okay.
They may still even patch it. But you got to buy it before Blizzard, for whatever reason. It might have something to do with the description of what the remasters look like, which is, a Zynga game made by a blind duck. That might have something to do with this. So yeah, if you want the originals, grab them now. Or if you already have them on GOG, you'll still be able to grab them afterwards.
Or just go thrifting. Because Warcraft and Warcraft 2, there were so many of those games, so many copies out there. It was one of those things I could always find at a Goodwill. Which is probably where this copy came from, actually.
I thought I summed up their restoration service quite nicely when I said doing GOG's work.
They are doing GOG's work.
That's nice. Because, if I had never played the original DOS versions of the games and didn't know intimately what the graphics are supposed to look like, seeing these, and they're glossy and goofy looking, but if the gameplay is the same, I'd probably still get addicted to it. I don't know. A lot of the charm is in the old graphics, though. Warcraft 3, though, it is totally different. Obviously,
yes.
It looks different, but a lot of the gameplay mechanics are the same other than the heroes.
Yeah, the heroes were sort of the whole point of that one, though, which kind of upset me.
It was the first 3D accelerated Warcraft.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it ran like dog on my computer.
You said it, not I.
Like 3 years ago, and that was a no-go from the CD. So
my ATI Expert 128 PCI graphics card didn't do well with it.
Rage?
And then was what it was based on. It was the PCI versions was even slower. And then I got a GeForce for MX420, I think, also PCI. Because I had a system that was so crappy, it didn't even have an AGP slot. It had
PCI.
The space for one, but it wasn't populated. It was a cheap Dell system, and it just had PCI. So I was paying more for PCI cards versus their AGP, companion.
Now I see why you got into computers.
Next in Gaming Quick Hits, Steam's new Season Pass DLC rules. Publish or die. Please explain.
Well, I don't know if you've ever bought a season pass to a game, that says, "Oh, don't worry. For this low bargain price, you will get all 3 of our DLCs. It will be out." Yep, totally out. We're working on them. Don't worry, it's coming. And okay, so October. We didn't say October of which year. Which we'll bump it up to April of the year after we said it would be out. And Steam is getting a little bit annoyed with this. Valve needs to let off a little bit of pressure because they're the ones who have to deal with people demanding refunds because they expected these DLCs to come out in a reasonable amount of time. Whether the publisher actually gave a timeline or not, it's like, I bought this game, I've played it twice, and it's a year and a half later, and you still haven't dropped the last DLC. So Steam is fed up. They're saying that you've got to, when you first put out a season pass on Steam, put dates for every single one of the DLCs that are supposedly covered by this season pass. And you've got a one-time timeout card where you can delay it by up to 3 months. That's it. If you do it again, they're pulling your season pass, they're refunding everyone, and they're going to bill you for, the money that they had to deal with. Plus, I doubt they're going to refund the percentage that Steam takes for selling your games on Steam. Different topic altogether. So yes. This is dealing with the frustration that a lot of us share that, hey, I want to buy the season pass because you've guaranteed me 2 or 3 DLCs, maybe 5 of them, or a yearly DLC in the case of some things, Paradox. And if they don't release within that year, well, what was the point of paying extra for that DLC? So Steam's going to, as of now, put this out and say that, yes, you have to agree to this. Unless you pre-order, in which case, well, it's on you. You pre-ordered a game that doesn't even exist yet, and you paid for a season pass for a DLC that doesn't exist yet for a game that doesn't exist yet. So, suck it. And that's it for Gaming Quick Hits of the Week.
Yes, Gaming Quick Hits is over, and it's time to talk briefly about a product that I reviewed. I published this review this morning. MSI has a new product. It's not even available for sale yet, as far as I know, called the DATAMAG 20 gigabit per second. That's actually the name. It is a magnetic portable SSD. Now, given its size,
that sounds brilliant.
Shape, you would think micro hard drives. We're talking about magnetic storage here. No, it is solid state storage in a magnetic enclosure. They do market this for iPhone users. They mention the iPhone 15 and 16 Pro and Pro Max, talk about ProRes support and how you can attach this to your phone and shoot more, of that cinematic video with your iPhone and store it on this thing. But I use it on a PC because this is PC perspective. You can see the little device here. It comes with 2 different lengths of flat 20 gigabit per second rated USB-C cable. Small device, integrated heatsink. The bottom half of it is it's metal.
They didn't splurge on a non-metallic magnetic substance?
No. So the platform of this device, which, by the way, if you care, is 66 millimeters square, 13 millimeters thick. It weighs 81 grams. It's powered by a Phison PS2251-U18. This is an interesting product, and I will digress here a little bit to go to that product page. So these are the world's first and fastest USB 3.2 native UFD controllers, according to this page from Phison. It's an all-in-one solution. So there's no bridge chip. You can just integrate this one chip from Phison, and it's everything you need. And it uses less power, provides good speeds. The entry-level one's the U17. The one that comes in this device we're talking about today is the U18, which is the higher performance variant, which can go up to 1,850, or actually up to 1,900 megabytes per second on the reads, up to 1,700 megabytes per second on the writes. This MSI is rated for 1,600 megabytes per second reads and 1,500 writes. And in the synthetic results, it exceeds that. It exceeds it slightly in Crystal Diskmark, but in Atto, just doing sequentials here. Look at that. It goes up to 1.83 gigabytes per second writes, and reads up to 1.67 gigabytes per second. I need to fix that.
Interesting.
I have the two reversed here in my commentary.
That would have been how I would have expected it, actually.
An interesting note about the performance that they advertise here, though, even on their own graphic, which I added into the review, they're showcasing 20 gigabit per second Gen 2x2 performance of 2 seconds, or for 2 seconds. It says it's tested by transferring a 4 gigabyte file, and that is significant because in my testing I found there was a pretty big disparity between the performance of a 4 gigabyte or less file and anything over 4 gigabytes. I ended up making these 8 gigabyte test files, and during an 8 gigabyte test file transfer, I would watch the speed drop significantly. So
damn you, SLC.
Yeah, exactly. These are DRAM-less solutions from Phison, so there's a certain amount of cache. Seems to be about 4 gigabytes, because after that, it drops to basically 10 gigabit per second speeds. So I had up to 800 megabytes per second on the reads at that point, and the writes actually dropped down to about 500.
Oh,
wow! Oh, that's SSD speed.
Yeah, it got to be about USB 3.0 almost. Not quite that bad, but
so 1080p video ish.
But here's the selling
about
point.
At 4K, if Apple is about 250 megabyte per second of creating.
Josh is right. Even the fastest SD cards for 4K 60 video from cameras like mine.
Oh yeah,
like
good luck.
280 megabytes per second is the maximum. And the sustained advertised numbers are usually much lower, like 90. So it's still more than fast enough to record digital video. But here is the clever design from MSI in action. Here you see the streaming PC that I'm using right now, with the device just dangling from its USB-C cable. Not that I ever recommend doing this, which I have done repeatedly in my life.
Well, you can see between the two pictures, the angle of the dangle is in fact proportional to the heat of the bead, as we can see in the second picture.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And if I were using the longer cable, I could have positioned this in so many different ways. I was somewhat restricted, but I was able to get it completely out of the way with zero stress on the cable, and I could stick it anywhere I wanted to the back of this metal mid-tower case.
Hey, you know what? In 2000, this would have been a great prop for like Mission Impossible. Slap that on the back of the server, plug it in. Nobody notices it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you sing that song while you were doing this, or did that not occur to you?
It did not occur to me, sadly. I wish it had. But I always just do that.
Really? I do that all the time when I test hardware.
Every time I come downstairs by myself, I'm like, anyway, like I do my own theme music.
Make your wife, drop you through the ceiling.
Right. So that was that. Check out that review, although I just basically told you everything. The conclusion of the review is that there is no conclusion because I don't know pricing yet. So I haven't seen it for sale. The pricing was to be determined. And yeah. All right, let us move to picks of the week, Josh. Please.
Me.
You have the honor.
Well, you know what? Again, DDR5 memory going down in price. It's not a huge sale on this, but this is the CAS 30 stuff of the DDR5 6000 G-Skill player.
It's only 1.35 volts. And it's CAS 30. Perfect.
Yeah. So, $95, $96. Go to the beach. Nicki Minaj.
Yep.
The Flare X was the best memory back in the AM4 era. I had a set that AMD had sent, and it was just great. It was super low latency. It wasn't super high voltage, and it always worked. So I'm glad to see that carried on in the DDR5 era. The Flare X5.
Do you see a purpose for 64 gigs at this time? Or should you just stay with 32? Because I've never had anything that I work on that
the bad old days, there was the addressing problem where if you had a certain size of memory pool, you'd actually see performance degradation. As far as I know, that's not true anymore. So you could get 64, but you don't need it. I don't think.
Yet. Just wait.
I'm running 48, and I've come nowhere near even saturating 32.
And that's even with Windows 11 grabbing a good chunk of it just because it needs it.
Let's see. What am I looking like?
I have yet to use more than 32, even with like video and other editing.
I'm at 12.5 gig with 2 different browsers, Discord, IRC.
Now, if you have a lot here of Chrome tabs open all the time,
I've got a lot of Chrome tabs. I've got like 20 open.
Then
it's the first Chrome tab that hurts the worst, though.
It is.
There's some people who actually think their systems will run faster if they have 64 gigabytes of RAM, and there are instances where
you
might be
subscribe to Adobe? Because if you subscribe to Adobe, throw all the RAM you can at it. But apart from that, or maybe some like
I mean, if you're doing video editing, it's a no-brainer.
Doesn't use that much. I use DaVinci Resolve Studio, and it's nowhere near the 32 gigs that I have installed. Even when I edit in 4K. But you don't want to try in 16. It's not good. Regardless of what Apple says. Okay. Jeremy, your pick.
There are some that would argue that Lego is not a technical pick. Those people are wrong.
They are wrong.
Because Lego is amazing. Unless you turn 100, in which case apparently you're too old to use it, but ignore the rules. You've lived to 100. Play with that Lego. Just don't step on it. And this is for Canadians, because I checked Amazon.com, and let me tell you, you boys are not getting quite the same deal as we are. This is over 700 pieces of Lego in a giant case.
That's big.
To, eventually convince your kid to put it all back in. At a 20% off. Usually almost $75. Yours for $60. Or, if you're nice, you could give it to someone. But you can also buy it for yourself. It is a great deal. And, everyone needs more Lego. Except the carpet. The carpet does not need more Lego.
No, especially if you have shag carpet, because you'll never find it. Looking for that same Lego box in the United States of America. Okay, well, this might disappoint you, Jeremy.
Oh, did you find a good deal?
$33.12.
Oh, come on, our dollar's so horrible, it's still probably more expensive. Oh, 45% off. There you go. Only has to be 20% off here.
That is a damn good deal. 790 pieces of just classic Lego.
Yes.
For $33.12. I like to look at the cost of a piece of Lego from the expensive sets. And my son and I went through the Lego catalog they sent us recently, and I'm like, how much do they want for that thing? It was like $159 for some set. I did the math real quick. And these premium sets, like Harry Potter Castle, stuff like that, those are typically between 9 and 11 cents per piece.
Yes. And they're annoying, incompatible ones that can only be assembled in one particular way, generally.
So let's see. 790 pieces. It's $33.12. We're talking about 4 cents per piece here, roughly. That is a great deal.
You heard it here, Sebastian's Law.
Yes.
4 cents a brick.
5 cents a brick. It's Sebastian's Law. I'm not paying 11 cents a brick for Harry Potter or Disney Legos, son. Sorry.
I didn't have Legos when I was growing up. They're outlawed in much of the Appalachian Mountains because nobody wears shoes.
Oh.
And,
wah, wah.
wah.
Well, I don't know. That means they should have a nice callus built up, and they'd be walking over Lego without noticing it and laughing at the Flatlanders.
The tender feet. All right. Brett, do you have a pick?
Yeah, all kinds of holiday gaming here. This may not be for the longtime gamers, maybe not for a lot of people that might watch this, but it's for people who maybe want to stock up their handhelds, like a Steam Deck or something like that, with a bunch of enjoyable games. Or there's somebody new or younger who's just getting into gaming. They may not have had a chance to play some of the classics that run pretty well. So here's an opportunity to hit up the Humble Bundle and grab themselves some classic shooters like Crysis, all three of them, 3 Crysises, Doom, even System Shock, Dark Forces, Prey. A lot of this money goes to their charity, so it's also somewhat holiday centered. But like I said, this is great for somebody who's maybe just getting new to some of the classic games, or someone who's looking for a bunch of games they can easily play on their portable, their Steam Deck.
And it's nice of them not to call them boomer shooters.
I didn't.
Kent, do you have a pick this week?
I do. OLEDs are actually coming down in price. And this is a Samsung 27-inch 1440p OLED, 360 hertz. And it is just over $600 if you're a Prime member. 3-year warranty on it, including burn-in. There are some, it's FreeSync Premium Pro, anti-glare. It's a QD-OLED, of course, because it's Samsung. You can actually find some 1440p 27-inch OLEDs for a little bit less for manufacturers like KTC or Philips, but they don't seem to have the 3-year burn-in warranty on them. This one does have it, and at that price, it's a really good deal, I think, especially if you're looking for a new monitor. Experience OLED for the first time. It changes your life.
Kent, can I go directly to watching my DVD player with this, or will it force me to go through a menu? Just wondering about that.
If your DVD player is connected to your computer, then probably yes.
I just know.
You can't just turn it on, it just stays on whatever HDMI input it was on before.
Some TVs or inputs or monitors nowadays that force you into an app before you can pick an input. That's what I hear. Anyway.
Yes.
Nefarious.
All right, I don't really have a pick, but I have a bunch of motherboards nearby, so I'm going to pick the... What is this? Hold on.
Are you going to pick an APIC?
No, this is the VA 503 Plus motherboard. It's really an MVP in my book.
I miss my foreign ones.
Actually, I just realized the heat sink that's on this processor is held on only by thermal paste right now because there is no clip on it. So I'm going to put this down because this is very risky to be holding this up.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
No, it's x86.
Yeah, of course. It's x86. That was actually a pretty fast Socket 7 board back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the VA were all AT, and then the PA were ATX from FIC.
And look, I could buy one of these on eBay right now for just $299.99 or $129, where they probably say untested. And they know very well that it doesn't work. Actually, I got mine pretty cheap when I did get it because on mine the first 72-pin SIM slot has a broken connector on the left-hand side. Thankfully, this is one of those boards where it uses either SD-RAM or SIMs. So just use SD-RAM with this one. And that's it for the PC Perspective Podcast, episode 801. It's in the books. We want to thank everybody for watching and the kind of insane amount of support we received during the show. There's over 200 people streaming this right now, and they've
thank you so much
very generously tonight with the super chats, an unprecedented total, and we could not.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
do the show without you. We appreciate you very much. It felt
you made our hearts grow 2 sizes today. Maybe not 4, but at least 2.
Christmas came early for PC Perspective.
But 2.
And it felt like a pledge drive at times. We were begging for money, and we said we wouldn't continue the podcast unless you gave generously, and you did.
We're considering some new shirt designs, maybe some new swag. That might be fun.
Yes.
Swag.
Please come back again next week for additional content just like this.
Yes.
At no charge.
But different. I mean,
it's like Humble Bundle.
It'll be different.
Pay what you want. Yes. Most people choose to pay 0, which is probably fairly
what we're worth,
close to their actual value.
And some people call it Humble Bumble. Actually,
you do.
All right, that's
Humble Bumble.
He is technically a person
to do that.
So that would be some people.
Bumbles bounce. By the way, it's seasonal.